Okay, so part two of my testimony. So basically, what I started to notice the more that I read through my scriptures as well is that um, I wasn't reading anything that supported their doctrine, and their doctrine was basically, we're saved by grace. There's nothing you did to deserve it, and there's nothing you have to do to keep it, and nothing is expected of you. And I was just kind of like, well, I'm sorry, but I'm believing in a God who sent his son to die on a cross for me, and I can continue living in sin like I have been, and I can continue doing whatever. The whole doctrine of Christianity is very schizophrenic, and it doesn't make any sense. It's got a lot of holes in it. It doesn't hold water. So, also, I started to come into a lot of other truths, like why do we celebrate Christmas? Why do we celebrate Easter? And that's a video all on its own. I'm not going to get into that, but basically that was illuminated to me, the whole Christmas thing. And when I was brought to that truth, I immediately took my husband aside, and I was like, we need to talk about this. I don't think I want to do this anymore. And then we sat down with our kids and we told them exactly what was going on with it. We told them what it represented. And my kids were like, well, we don't want to do that anymore. So it was done. No more Christmas, no more Easter. And we weren't at that point where we were like, well, we're going to replace them with religious holy days, because we just weren't there yet. We weren't at the point of where we were coming into our Hebrew roots yet. We weren't there yet. But we knew that there was something so wrong about modern day Christianity that it was something that we were willing to set ourselves apart from. We were like, this is not working for me at all. And I want to clarify and just kind of go back and tell you, at this point, my husband, he is not actively involved. He is not saved. But he is, he's respectful of my decisions. He's respecting what I'm doing with the kids and bringing them up in some type of faith. So he was supportive, but at the same time, he's not on board yet, because like I said, none of this stuff is resonating and none of it's making sense yet. So we got through the holidays thing, and then the next thing that was placed on my heart was the Sabbath. I started questioning, why are we not keeping the Sabbath? Why are Christians not keeping the commandments of God? Why are they not? They're not even keeping the 10 commandments of God. And at this time, I didn't even know a lot about the Torah, other than, what I had heard from a Jewish friend of mine and stuff. But, I knew at that point that there was like 613 commandments that the Jews had to follow. And, that's a really unfair assessment. Not only that, but that's a very unfair assessment, because each individual does not have 613 commandments to follow. They have commandments for men, they have commandments for women, they have commandments for children, they have commandments for farmers, they have commandments for all these people. So each individual is not responsible for keeping 613 commandments, because if you're a man, then you're not keeping women commandments. So anyways, again, another story for another video. But at this point, we're just basically coming out of Christianity, not so much into our Jewish roots just yet. So the next thing that got placed on my heart was the Sabbath. I was very perplexed as why we're not keeping the commandments of God in the church. So at this point, I'm out of that church over there, the charismatic church. I'm out of there, and I'm online, and I'm looking for anybody who has, I'm not looking for a denominational message, but I was looking at all kinds of different denominations. I was looking at Baptists, I was looking at Hebrew Israelites, I was looking at Messianic Jews. I mean, anybody, because I wanted to try and find one church who was keeping the commandments of God. And I would get close with somebody and then find out that they weren't doing this or they weren't doing that. And I'm like, why aren't they keeping the commandments of God? I remember as a child learning about the 10 Commandments. I remember as a child that was a huge part of Christianity, was the 10 Commandments. That was the basis for our faith, was the 10 Commandments. And where did that go away from? Where did that go away at? And why? And how was it replaced with this hyper grace message? So the Sabbath was what I really dug into, and I was watching all of these different things on the Sabbath, and eventually came across a Sabbath debate between Chris Rosebrough, and I don't even know what denomination he's from, but and it was between him and Jim Staley, and it was about an hour, maybe a little bit longer. But I'm going to tell you what, when I watched that debate, everything in my life changed. I was like, what am I doing? You know, it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, I think I might have found somebody who's really teaching what I believe. So I immediately started looking up Jim Staley, and led me to his channel Passion for Truth. And so I started watching that and really got into his teachings, because it was something that I was already feeling to begin with, that was being backed up by something he was saying. And not only that, I mean, the things that he was talking about in his videos actually made me dig even deeper into my Bible, because the things that he was saying were so new and so foreign to me. I was like, does the Bible really say that? And boy, it does say that. And I really started to study my Bible, and was feeling more and more connected every day, and was getting more and more clarity on what direction I needed to take my family in as far as our faith went. So I was watching his stuff and came across his original identity crisis teaching. Now, I know he's put out 2 more since then. He keeps trying to perfect what was already perfect, and I can't even find the original one anymore. But it was amazing, and it was him at a conference, I believe, and he gave this message, and he broke it all down. Who were the Israelites? What is their purpose? What was the purpose of Messiah coming? Who is the bride? I mean, everything was packed into this teaching that was just a little over an hour long. And I'm going to tell you, that was the moment. That was the moment that my faith made sense. When I watched that teaching, my eyes just opened wide. Everything just made sense, and I just started bawling. I was crying my eyes out, not because I was sad or angry. I was so relieved, and everything that I believed about God was affirmed in that message. And I literally, it was like a fall to your knees moment. And thank you, Jesus, for revealing this to me, for making this happen in my life. Because literally that verse that says he will reward those who diligently seek them. I believe that after searching and looking for him for so long, he finally revealed himself to me and said, you were right to run away from that stuff. You were right. You are right where I want you to be. So now dig your heels in, because this is where you're going to stay. Every time that I have tried to abandon the Hebrew roots and rationalize going back to a Christian church, he wakes me right up and he says, you're meant for bigger things. You're meant to do something bigger in the kingdom, and you need to get out of here, because this is not where you're going to do it. So every single time that I try to rationalize going back to the Christian church, he pulls me out. So anyways, let's move on. I do have a lot of points here to make, so I'm just trying to stay on track. So anyway, so after I watched that teaching, it was really clear to me. Everything was just crystal clear, and I told my husband and my kids, I said, okay, this Shabbat we're gonna watch something, and I think it's gonna really open everybody's eyes around here. So on Friday night we had dinner, and then we turned that on, and it was really amazing because my husband, he had watched a couple of their teachings up until then, and he was like, this guy's a really good teacher. I like the way he teaches. He's not all, wishy-washy, and he's very scientific, and he's very historically correct on things, and he pulls the whole picture together. I really like the way he teaches. So when we watched that, he sat there quietly and he listened to everything he was saying, and then he looked at me after it was over, and again I'm crying. He looked at me and he sat up and he says, you have my attention. And I just started crying even harder. I was like, it was amazing. It didn't just lift the scales off of my eyes. It lifted the scales off of his eyes. And he was able to see the Father for the first time in his life. He was able to see the Father. And I looked at him, and I could see that in his eyes. That was the first time that he's ever really felt anything. It was amazing. It was an amazing feeling. So anyways, yeah, that having been said, we watched more of their videos and stuff, and Rick actually ended up getting saved this year, finally, after almost 6 years of being saved. He finally got saved. This family has been through tremendous spiritual warfare over the last 2 to 5 years. And probably the worst spiritual warfare this family has ever experienced was the week right before my husband got saved. It was hair-raising, it was scary, and everybody in the family felt it. And it was like, it wasn't just like, oh, people were in a bad mood and everybody was fighting. No, it was spiritual warfare where we were actually dealing with having to rebuke spirits from our home. It was really crazy. So everything has changed since then. Our kids are all homeschooled now. We teach our kids every day. Every morning we get up, we do the Shema twice a day. Every morning we get up, we have a Bible study, we read 3 chapters of the Bible every day. We celebrate the feast days now. We don't keep the holidays, the secular holidays at all. Crispin's like the spiritual warden of the house. He's autistic, so he keeps everybody in line, making sure we're saying our prayers and making sure that we're reading and doing what we need to do. And he also keeps me in check, because one of my biggest hurdles and downfalls is my temper, and he keeps me in check with, Mom, you're getting a little too crazy, calm down, type of stuff. So he does that for me. What else? So I would venture to say that now more than ever we are living a very set apart life, and it is very hard at times because people do look at us and treat us a little bit differently. My house used to be filled with kids. I mean, my kids' friends were always over, and more people have been taken out of our lives because of what we believe. A lot of people don't want to submit to that, and the Father just removes them. Other people are threatened by it and feel like we're too religious, and they don't want their kids around it, and whatever the case may be. I know that He's working everything out for our good, and that eventually everybody's going to be where they need to be. It's hardest on the kids, because I'm trying to keep them away from people who will pull them back into that worldly mindset, where, you know, with the music and the drama and the gossip and, you know, the boys and all of that stuff, I try to keep especially my daughter away from stuff like that. I'm trying to teach her to be more modest and, you know, not just with her dressing, but her thought. And, you know, I keep her away from boys. And, you know, it's kind of cool because at first she was really upset that she couldn't have a boyfriend, but now she's at the age where she's seeing all of her friends get their hearts broken by this boy and then that boy and then this boy. And I'm like, see, that's why I don't let you live like that. That's why I don't let you have a boyfriend. You know, you don't need to be working on that relationship. You need to be working on your relationship with God, and then every other relationship will come, you know. So as of today, we've yet to find any fellowship here in Nevada of like-minded individuals, and most of our fellowship is done online with people that we don't really know, that we've never met face-to-face, but people that we can agree with, people that are in the same spot as us, pretty much, you know. We're scattered all over this country. We're scattered all over this country, and a lot of us don't have fellowship, you know, and, you know, it'll happen when it's time to happen. But I mean, look, you know, I have met a lot of cool people online that I didn't know before, and, you know, eventually maybe God will put it on our hearts to, you know, pack up and move to be closer to people who think more like us. Who knows, you know. But my kids, they do go to youth services at Calvary Church, and but I do worry about the message they receive there, because the message that they're receiving there is way different from the message they're receiving at home. I worry about confusing them, and I worry that not so much with my son, but with my daughter, that she will adopt that message that is a very scary message and leads to a lot of people leaving the church as soon as they come of age, because it's just not worth it. There's no emphasis on relationship there. I'm sorry. You know, if you're in relationship with anyone, what is your first response to that relationship? You want to make that person happy. You want to do the things that you know they like. So why is God any different than that? Why is God, who gave you everything, who created you, why is he any different than what you would give the average guy you were dating? You know, give him your focus, give him your glory, give him your attention, give him your everything. You know, why are we so willing to do that with flesh and blood human beings, but we're not willing to do that with our Creator? It doesn't make any sense to me. So anyway, my message to my kids even today during our Bible study was that we are meant to be the light of the world. And you know what? They're not getting that message at church, so they need to take that message to church. When people come to you in the next month or so asking you why, you know, you don't keep Easter, or inviting you over for Easter so you can eat their pagan ham with them, you need to be able to stand firm and say, you know what? I celebrate the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, because that's what I was told to do in the Bible, you know? And we just do it like that. That's what we do. We just keep things biblical as much as possible. And you know what? It is what it is. That's my testimony, and we're happy, and we don't have issues like other families have. And even when we do have issues like they do, we handle it differently, because we have our ultimate provider, and we have our Creator who knows what's best for us, and he's going to make sure that all things work out for our good. But that is my testimony. I hope that you enjoyed it. And feel free to leave your comments or tell me I'm crazy below. It really doesn't matter to me what anybody thinks anymore. I'm going to do my best to share the truth, the whole truth of God, and and simply tell you that there is blessing attached to being obedient to him. And if you want to go and live your careless Christian saved by grace lifestyle, go ahead. But you know what? There's not going to be anything special about you that isn't special about the person next to you. You know, you're going to look, you're going to talk, you're going to act like them, then you're going to be like them. It's just that simple. But God tells us very clearly in the Old Testament, he tells us, I've set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Choose wisely. I've chosen, and I haven't regretted it for a second. When I get affected by people being removed from my life, I'm being affected on a very fleshly level. But when I look back at it, I know why they had to go, because I cannot move to the next level of my faith with Jesus if I'm constantly keeping people around who remind me of what my past looks like, or how good the past looks to them. You know, oh, come out, let's go have a couple drinks, let's go do this, let's go do that. I don't want to do that stuff. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with that stuff, you know. So anyways, God bless you. I hope that this message has been a blessing to some of you, and